This is the second video to the first video, which was learning how to change the equation from standard form into slope-intercept form. So if you have not watched the first video, please turn this one off and then go back and look at the first video. This is how we're going to see the kind of questions that we're talking about when we look at the STAR test. So here's one question. It says, what is the slope of the line represented by 5x minus 12y equals 24? And for that, again, we're just going to move the 5x over. So I get negative 12y equals negative 5x plus 24. Then I would divide by 12. And get positive 5/12 x minus 2. There's my slope. There's my answer. So for the second problem, I'm going to do the same process. It just says which one is equivalent to 3x minus 4y equals 6. And all of the ones that are the answer choices are in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to convert this one to slope-intercept form, again, by subtracting the 3x. So I get negative 3x plus 6, and then I divide by negative 4. So negative 3x divided by negative 4 is a positive 3/4 x. Negative 6, or sorry, positive 6 divided by negative 4 is negative 3/2. And that's how we got that answer. Okay, a couple of things that we're going to talk about here are kind of, for lack of a better word, little cheats that are possible things that you can do so that you can save yourself a little bit of time. The slope, I think, is tough if you don't remember it, but if some of you have seen it in some of the other problems, I know that some of you guys are real good at picking up patterns, and you may have seen that the slope is actually negative a over b. So instead of rearranging the equation like what we have been doing, and just real quickly, I'm going to do that here so that you can see that it's the same thing. So if I do that, I end up with negative 6x minus 32, divide by the negative 4. And I would get y is equal to 3/2 plus 8. So instead of doing all that work, you can just say, okay, negative a over b. Well, what was the a term? The a term was the x right here in front of the x, and the b term is going to be that negative 4. So a would be 6. And the b is negative 4, and this I have to include 2, so that's going to be negative 4, and that's where I got the 3/2. If that's confusing to you, please just stay with the original idea. For some of you that you saw that little cheat, you can use it. If you remember it, that's great. If you don't, please just do the other one. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't save me that much time. For the x-intercept and the y-intercept, I think this does save you quite a bit of time. So when I take a look at what the x-intercept is and what the y-intercept is, again, we talked about the x-intercept being where y is 0 and the y-intercept being where x is 0. So when I go to find the y-intercept, if I took away this piece, in other words, make it 0, then I just have negative 4y equals negative 32. And if I wrote that down, I've got negative 4y, equals negative 32. I would solve it by just dividing both sides by negative 4 and get that y was 8. As you can see, it's the same answer. So that's just a little cheat that you can do to get the y-intercept. And I've got some words in here, but I'm going to have to move this down. There we go. So that you can see it. All right, put that down in a second. The same thing for the x-intercept. So the x-intercept, I don't know what happened to that guy. Oh well. The x-intercept is where you can put a 0 in for y. So again, I'll just take this and move it over. If I do that, I can solve for the x-intercept by saying 6x equals 32, negative 32, sorry, and then divide by 6. It's going to be a nasty answer. Negative 32 divided by 6, that would be 5 and 2/6, which is 1/3. So you can see that that would be helpful, just so that you can move that over. If you're solving for x, you cover up the y. You can do that with your finger. If you're solving for y, cover up the x. Make sure you keep the sign. This is a positive 6x, and this is a negative 4y. When you take away, it's no longer minus 4y, it's just negative 4y when you take that away. So you can just use your finger to do that. So looking at this, and I'm going to have to cover it up because I don't have one of those fun little things on here anymore. So if I use this and I just wanted to find the key attributes, again, for the slope, that's negative a over b. So for this one, that would be negative 2 over 6, which is negative 1/3. For the y-intercept, again, that's where x is 0. So I'm going to cover up y and solve it. So 2x equals negative 36, divide by 2. I get x, oh, this is y, sorry. This is the x-intercept. I messed that up. Sorry about that. So my x, we'll move this down here. X would be negative 18, okay? For the y-intercept, I would get rid of the x, and that would give me 6y is equal to negative 36. Divide by 6, and y is negative 6. So you can just cover up one and solve for the other. You probably don't want to write on yours because you can't erase it very easy, so just use your finger to cover it up. I just can't do it on the video. So over here, this last problem, for the slope, again, it's negative a over b. Well, the a term is negative 3, and the b term is negative 8. So negative 3 over negative 8 would be a negative 3 over 8, because these two negatives would cancel. As you can see, this method is not probably the easiest with all those negative signs. If you have a positive one, like this problem, it's not so bad. But when you have all those negative signs, it can be kind of confusing. The answer is negative 3 over 8, but that was kind of a mess to get to. There's a lot of places you can make a mistake. So for the y-intercept, again, I'm making x 0. So I will get rid of the x. Negative 8y equals 56. And you can do this in your head. You don't have to write it out on the paper. I'm just doing it for your benefit here. So negative 8, 56 divided by negative 8, it's going to be negative 7. And then for the x-intercept, y would be 0. So I will cover up y this time. And I get negative 3x equals 56. Divide by negative 3. And that's going to be negative, let's see, that's 1, 26, 18. I believe it's 2/3. If I'm wrong, don't hate me. I think it's negative 18 and 2/3. You could, of course, leave it as a decimal. Okay, so again, we're going to see some of this in the STAR questions. And I think this is going to kind of benefit you as to saving you a little bit of time, and it's kind of handy, especially on the STAR test, because a lot of times the STAR test has y-intercepts and x-intercepts that really do cross at perfect, nice, pretty numbers. You don't get 18 2/3. So in this instance, if I were looking for the x and y-intercepts, the x-intercept is going to be where y is 0. So negative 3x minus 15, if I just divide it by negative 3, I get the x-intercept to be 5. And then if I go back and solve for y, I cover up the x, divide both sides by 5, I get the y-intercept is negative 3. And the one that has an x-intercept at 5 and a y-intercept at negative 3 was answer B. So that is how you can do that a little bit quicker and move on through that problem. So again, you're just covering up the x value or the y value to solve for x, and covering up the x value to solve for y. Make sure you keep the signs with them. That's it, guys. Good luck to you. I hope that you did understand, and I will be back on Monday to clarify anything that you did not understand.